Hey rail fans, Train Guy here again, and today we're going to do not technically the last part of the grand tour we've been taking of the various routes of Trains in World 2, and we're going to finish up the stuff that's been released so far tonight with a trip west out of Germany. Last of the German routes will go from Cologne to Aachen. I was going to do it in a Talent too, but I thought no, I want to do everything in fast trains tonight. So we'll be taking an ICE3 service to headed for Brussels. We'll go as far west as Aachen, and then we will swap to a TGV. We'll join a southbound TGV going direct to Marseille from Avignon. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn it, well, not turn the train round, but jump to another one and come back up the way and have a look quickly at a couple of things I've discovered about the TGV in particular. Always gives me a chuckle, that Brian Ferries thing. I like that. Okay, so a nice straightforward one. Drive this high-speed intercity express ICE service to Aachen. So it's a 435 tonner, eight cars altogether. It's 199.4 meters. How much of that do you really need to know for this? Not that much. Handy to know your length for acceleration points and stuff like that. So, something new that you have to do now is, let's just get the master switch forward and the doors open. So what you have to do now is when you look at the MTD, you notice these bits are red. I don't know when they brought this in, but you have to raise the pantograph and close the breaker. And now you've got power, so it's 550. That turns the passenger compartment lights on, of course, and upper display twice to get to the destination screen. E for entry, and then back to the upper display screen. We might as well just put the AFB on while we're here. AFB. Back to the driver's seat. And of course LZB, PZB, CIFA. If it was dark outside at this time of the morning, we might consider putting the opaque thing on, just to keep the light out the cabin. It doesn't really matter in game, but if you're trying to do things sort of real world-ishy. Not actually sure what the rule is about the lights on this. I know on a TGV they're supposed to be high all the time, except when you've got a train coming at you, you're supposed to dip them. So 10 seconds to go. We'll start closing up the doors now. Set my AFB. And the brakes are actually already released when you start this, so off we go.
Zugbeeinflussung.
So 40 kilometers an hour till we're past the junctions. Did I just say miles or kilometers? I meant kilometers, whatever I said. just accelerating up to 60 because we're going straight into a 60 zone.
Sifa.
We're now in an 80 zone. Of course, we need to be 200 meters deep before we can wind it up. Go past two or three pylons on the left, and that's long enough. Just winding it up a bit now, and we should pass the LZB board just somewhere around this corner, if I remember rightly. I think that's it coming up on the right hand side. So we'll hear a buzz, and then we just whap the AFB lever all the way up to, there we go, all the way up to full chat. You can see the display in the middle of the desk just came alive there. A little bit choppy, but let's
Sifa.
just pressing it just in case, because I don't have my HUD switched on. And I don't know if you don't always, I think, get the audio alarm outside. So meanwhile, the AFB and the LZB between them are taking us up to 140 kilometers an hour now. That really annoying reflection artifact should go away very shortly. It sort of disappears after about 140 kilometers an hour. It's really annoying though, I wish they would just get rid of it. So yellow signal there, it's not for us anyway, but you don't actually need to be too concerned about the signals. Keep an eye on them and make sure that the system's doing what you think it should be, but you're not responding to them directly.
Sifa.
Early morning S-band traffic over on the left there. So we're now picking up to 250k. Don't know how well it shows up on the stream, but I can see the more S-band traffic and a freight train. Oh, it's positively busy. Don't know how well it shows up on the stream, but you can see the Sifa light on the desk fairly well on this train. You can see the PZB lights reasonably enough, and the gauges are actually readable just about. So you can, you might notice I've got the old speedometer thing down here toggled off just now. This is a train where it's fairly easy to do that. With some trains you kind of almost need to have that turned on because you just can't read the gauges, or where they're positioned is not practical. But, if you can't turn it off, I swear it adds a frame or two a second in some situations as well, because it doesn't have to update all that rubbish in the bottom corner. You do need to be absolutely certain that you understand what all the instruments and gauges in your cab actually mean if you're going to attempt it. do a very fast run by when I get my next. Once I've cleared the next SIFA, there we go. Whoosh! And there's no point in me trying to get the camera in front of the train at the moment, because the train is now going faster than the camera by a good way as well. So we'll be 250k kmh till about, I think it's about 30-40 kilometres from Aachen, maybe about, was it the other way around? Oh, there's SIFA again. You do about half of it as a high speed train, and then we do the other half of it as a sort of old fashioned train. Hey Samson, good to see you, mate. Welcome, mate. Ah, okay, it'll come back to you. It's like riding a bike, man. I don't know why I'm focusing so intently on it when there's not very much for me to actually do at the moment. I just realised I was totally zoned in on it. So, oh, more S-Bahn stuff. The S-Bahn trains seem to run into each other. They get stuck head to head at a red over there on the left. That needs fixed. I suspect that's. I think there's a bunch of German stuff in the works. Ahead of the next batch of DLC they want to sell us for these things. But it's a minor thing, and honestly it took me 2 or 3 passes to realise what that actually was parked up on the other line there. It's only once you realise what it is, it sticks out a bit like a sore thumb. And if you drive the commuter trains on this line, there is one that you end up, you do actually drive that one that gets stuck toe to toe with another one. That's been since day one, so they really could do with fixing that, I feel. Must be really annoying for the S-Bahn fans. But overall, still a great route. It's a good route. high-speed express trains, they're always fun. Unless you don't like them, I suppose. Okay, 3.5 kilometres to a speed reduction coming up. So we'll just be aware that we are approaching the end of the LZB zone. It's at good old break knots. Hello Terry, welcome back mate, good to see you again. So what I usually do, once we start reducing to 250s, I usually bring the AFB lever down to the speed we've just left, if that makes any sense. It just means that when it comes time to switch over, if I'm stepping it down, so when the speed reduces to 160, I'll step the AFB lever down to 200, and I just do that so that when I actually come to do the physical changeover a bit further down, it means that sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought there. I heard the buzz and I thought, well, shit, at the end of the BZB zone already. No, it's not, that was just LZB. Yeah, essentially what I'm aiming to do when I move the lever down is just mean that when I do the changeover later on, I've got a little bit less distance to move the AFB lever, which saves a fraction of a second of the whole process, which the quicker I can get it done and the more smoothly I can get that whole thing done, the happier I am. I still find the changeover much more stressful in an ICE than I do in a TGV, and I think it's just because the click spots on that television screen on the left there are small and annoying, and I don't like to move the camera to one where I can no longer see the signals coming up. It's a minor gripe, it's just me complaining about small things. Okay, I suspect if I was right-handed, I wouldn't have as many issues locating that click spot. So I'm just waiting on somewhere around this corner. PZB should go into whatever they call the transition mode. The end of light will come on the desk, and we will release that straight away. There it is. So we release, reduce, and remove. Well, get ready to remove the AFB. So it's when the end of light goes out and it clicks back over into normal PZB mode, you can do this last bit. Just coast along this section. Can't decide whether to get southeast high speed. I made that decision ages ago. I'm basically just clock watching till midnight now. So there we go. We can switch the AFB off, move the lever, re-engage it, give CFA a quick clear in the middle of all that. Once you've re-engaged the AFB, just give the lever a nudge down to 150 and back up. Check that the red marker on the speedo moves, or the blue line on the outside of the HUD moves, and that tells you you've done it properly. If you move the lever and the AFB speed does not change, then you buggered something up and you need to go through the process again, which is not as fun as you would think at 150 kilometers an hour with signals coming up. And if you get it wrong on the way into Cologne, oh boy, that's not fun. Ordinarily, Terry, so would I be asleep when it comes out. However, I might have booked a long weekend for this one, because I have been looking forward to this one for a long time. So there's a fair chance I'll be up till the Hoors trying it out tonight. Might even do a GTV stream tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see how I get on with it. So we're now tooling along at 160k. We're now in full control of the train, or in full control via AFB. We are essentially an old-fashioned train again. And we'll cover that 20 kilometres quite quickly, I would think. There's a slowish section coming up. In one area where you do have to be careful, you're reducing to 120. You do have to be fairly sharpish because occasionally PZB kicks in for some reason on this one specific spot. I've never found out whether it's a safety system or a feature of PZB that I don't know about, where it can occasionally work at those high speeds, or whether it's just one of those dovetail magic magnets like they used to have in rapid transit that just came on and did whatever the hell they wanted before they fixed it. I'm never entirely certain. I think it's probably an operational thing. I'm sure I've heard it mentioned before. Is a route coming out tonight, Samson? High speed southeast is coming out tonight. And rather lush it looks as well. So that'll come with the, is it the 377 or is it the 375? It's whichever one we didn't get with Southeastern. It's the sort of the very similar version of that, and the Javelin. And if you've got East Coastway and Trans-Pennine and then a few other things up here as well. But I are very excited for it. High speed in tunnels. Wait till you see TGV, mate. Now that's high speed in tunnels. Not gonna lie, I do think it's kind of funny as well that the only high-speed lines we've got in the UK uses French signalling systems. That amuses me slightly.
Zifa.
So yeah, if you're getting high-speed southeast and you gave LGV a miss, you're going to have to learn TVM and KVB anyway, I think. Or at the very least understand TVM, because I think that's sort of always on, even if it's not always got teeth.
Zifa.
This section always feels really slow after coming off the Schnellfahrstrecke. I mean, mind you, it is only about 100 miles an hour, so it's we're not exactly thundering along. So just watching out for the speed limit change coming up, because this is the one that will punish you. I can see the orange sign. Put some brakes in. All good.
Zifa.
TVM's easy. TVM's just like an active speedometer basically. If you don't turn on the actual safety part of it, it won't bite you. And I think the rest of the route uses the fairly standard British equipment.
Zifa.
Yeah, I don't actually know the southeast that well, Terry. So I mean, I watched the stream the other night, but I wouldn't say I know that area at all well. So I'm looking forward to having a new route to explore, new scenery, what have you. Seen it once on the live stream, sort of watching it at the same time as I was playing Doom. Didn't really give me the full experience of the new route. So. And I kind of deliberately do that. I always have the preview stream on to watch, So that, oh, there's that annoying pop-in. That's crap. I wish that wouldn't happen. I always watch the preview stream, so if there's anything important to do with like safety systems and things, Matt Pedalston will usually talk about them, and I'll make sure I pay attention to those bits. And then the bits where they're just kind of showing other stuff off, I'll often be zoned out and try not to pay too close attention, so that I can find it all for myself.
Zifa.
Love a new route. It's like Christmas. Can't wait. Aye, West Somerset's decent. I'm going to be honest, I never played with it very much at all. I've had it since it came out, and I only really started playing with it recently. I think I've only ever had it on the stream once, but yeah, it's good fun. Something different. I think it has also bizarrely got one of the best collections of add-ons in the entire series, because you get the 52 and the 31 for it as well. Those are amazing machines.
Zifa.
Sure, it had something else as well, or is it stuff that you can feed in? If you've got Tees Valley and Northern Pt.9, I think you can feed other locomotives into it as well. It's pretty good. It's not something I go back to very often, but it's a very good one to have if you fancy doing something a little bit different.
Zifa. Zifa.
What platform are you on, Terry? Are you on PlayStation or Xbox? Because I think it actually is on sale reasonably often on PlayStation. I think it's on sale quite a lot on, if you're on PC, it's on their own store and on Steam fairly regularly, I think. But, I believe that Xbox users do generally get the, spiked knobbly end of the shaft when it comes to
Zifa. Zifa.
the sales and offers and things like that, unfortunately. Or that's the impression I've certainly always got from the forums. Oh, PlayStation, it comes up reasonably often, man. They don't always publicise it very well, though. It is literally just a case of checking on the PlayStation Store whenever you fire the game up, kind of thing. That's it. I found quite a lot of things. Going to be honest, I've bought very few Train Sim World things on sale. I'm one of these idiots who's always in on day one for all this shit.
Zifa.
Because I've got no patience or sense. So we've got final set of speed reductions coming up ahead. You can see the green signal ahead is flashing for us. A flashing signal is essentially the same as a green and yellow together. It's just telling you to get ready to slow down. It was to 120, it was displayed below the signal, so we'll just do that. Let's get the throttle back out. Yeah, you do have to remember to close and open your throttle again, because it interlocks out when you hit the brakes. So another flashing signal.
Zifa. Zifa.
And that's just for 100, so that's okay. Also for 100. We've got another flashing one in even if you can't read the number straight away, you can tell when it's a single or a double digit number. So if it's a double, just get your speed below 85, and then you can release the brakes and just let it coast down the rest of the way without any problems. So line speed says 70, but the signal was telling us 40. I don't mind the slow pace of it, to be honest with you. I don't think I could do it all day. But the thing I like about the slow pace is I don't very often, because of the way I play the routes and drive the trains on most routes, I don't get a lot of time to faff about with like sightseeing and things like that. So I find the Somerset quite a nice one to do just for messing about, looking at the trains go by and things, you know. Doing some of the stuff I don't necessarily spend much time doing ordinarily, so that one needs acknowledged as well, because it's basically all the signals rolled into one, and part of it was telling us about a low speed up ahead.
Zifa.
Don't need to acknowledge this one because this one doesn't have a PZB plate or anything on it. It's just a distant signal. But we do have to acknowledge this one as we go past. Oh yeah, man, the game is getting quite big. I think we're creeping up towards 100 gig now, I think, surely. I know the last two patches it wanted me to put in yesterday were something like 14 gig between them. And I think that's still not the route itself, the new route downloaded. I think you still have to do those separately.
Zifa.
A bit early actually. We want to just keep on rolling round to the halt boards. We've got the time. Lovely jubbly. So we'll just let the passengers unload. That's what I love about this game, being able to jump out. You get a real, it's just the sense of scale and size that you're able to get just by doing this. I had this horrible moment where I thought, oh, that's one of those platforms that you cannot climb back up, because there are some that are non-climbable, and I've got myself stranded on the tracks before. Don't remember if it was on this route or not. Okay, so that's it. That's Germany done. We're almost there. I'm not going to wait and see if I got a score, because I have already done that one before, got me medals and stuff. So this is it. Final stretch before we get high speed, before we're back home for the new toys. Bus Channel Rotterdam. Hello, Nick. Welcome. Good to see you, man. Ah, you do custom liveries. I did one custom livery where I made the ICE look like something really, really, really rude, and decided I should never be allowed near the editor again. Although my use of the colour purple I thought was incredibly creative. Right. What do we want? LGV Mediterranee. Apologies to any French people who have just upset with murder in that. Right. I had something scribbled down here, hang on. Because I made a note of the ones that don't stop on the way to Marseille. So, we are going to join a train at Avignon, and I'm just going to do a very quick... I'm going to fly through the setup at this end, because it would be set up already in reality. We would just be picking the train up. Or we'd already be driving it, more than likely. So I'll fly through it at this end, and then we'll have a short gap where I'm going to have time to commandeer another train, run through some of the setting up stuff. So we'll make it a summer's day. We'll not make it particularly cloudy. I don't know why I bother putting a little breeze on, because you're not going to notice the effects of this at speeds. Playing with your trains again. Yes, there are one or two people who know that me being knackered on a Friday usually means the same thing, or knackered on a Thursday means the same thing. So the train I want is sort of early afternoon, mid-afternoon. Yeah, we want the 13:50. I've got it scribbled down as 13:55, but I'm assuming that's the same one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring this 14:33 service back out again. That's how quick this route is. It's nearly 100 kilometres end to end, if you've not seen it yet, but at 300 kilometres an hour plus, you munch that up fairly fast. And doing this one way each way should take us nicely up to about time for me going and getting some scran before settling down for Workshop Wednesday, which I do enjoy even though I don't have the platform, and then counting the minutes till 12. Right, drive this southbound TGV service to Marseille. Right, I'm just kind of rattling through this very quickly. Safety and other safety and other safety. See, this would all be set up already at this station. You wouldn't actually be going through all this gubbins as a driver. So I'm sort of skipping quite a few parts of the process out. That's already an LGV. Make sure that's up. That's fine. That noise is good. Right, that's everything I need to do. So this is how the cab should actually be when you start this part anyway. So with a minute to go, I shall... Oh, thank you, Nick. I shall do all the brakey testy stuff and what have you at the other end. So about 15 seconds to go. I really thought we'd have drawn up a bit further. Mind you, that platform is quite narrow. So with about 10 seconds to go, close the doors up. You can just give it full beans straight away in the dry. You can't actually induce wheel spin at the beginning. I'll just let the brakes out. It should start to move very gradually. Takes a wee minute to get underway. Probably be in the cab scene as I've got back when things turned on, but will not worry too much. So we're underway, and TVM's just cleared me up to 300, so 300 it is. If you want the desk light and you can't find the click spot in the dark, if you do have a keyboard, Control and L toggles the desk light, otherwise the click switch is down there, and you need to remember to do it before you're in the tunnel, otherwise you'll be fumbling about trying to find the damn thing. VACMA, which is basically just DSD, making sure we're still awake, paying attention. It's 200 kilometers an hour, or roughly 125 miles per hour. And if you haven't seen this route before, something you've maybe noticed already is that there are no signals next to the track. We're also on the left. I didn't know the French drove their trains on the left until we played this. But there are no signal lights anywhere to be seen. The only thing you've got is you'll notice on the left hand side, every 1,000 metres or so, you'll see a blue square plate with an orange triangle on it flashing by. There's one on the right hand side. It's the ones on the left we're interested in. Basically, each one of those you go past, that's where TVM can receive an update from the trackside equipment, and that's your sort of just your watch out as you pass here, you might get given a slow down instruction kind of thing. But there's no lights. We won't see any more lights until we leave the LGV lines, join the network at Marseille again. All done with this little box of tricks in front of the driver. And then the big red thing in the middle at the bottom there, that's just your current speedometer with an accelerometer to the side there. Also shows you if it's displaying in kilometres or miles per hour at the time, because on the Javelin it will swap over between kilometres and miles depending on what mode you're in. So that's TVM taking me up to, clearing me up to 320 now. So if you're running without the HUD, without this thing, you're used to this blue line on the outside showing you what you've got your TVM set to. You've got this little gauge down here, a bit difficult to see in the tunnel sometimes, but this little thing down here has a red needle on it. It shows you where the TVM or where the speed selector is currently set to. Not always the easiest thing to see, and I do still rely a bit on the thing on the right here telling me as it changes where I've got it at. But that's a useful little instrument just to know about down there. I also need to concentrate like along here, because if you do get a speed reduction, you have to start moving sharpish. Sometimes there are AI services here as well. One or two of them, if you're creative about it, you can even hijack them for yourself. But there are some AI services on here. So you do something, see other traffic. There's a couple of cool ones where you stop on the way out of Marseille and something comes thundering past you and overtakes you while you're sitting there, and it's not one that's on the timetable to select. In fact, I've noticed a few trains at times that I can't match up to anything on the timetable, but I'm cool with that. I really don't mind them using AI to buff the numbers up a bit. I believe that's a trick they're going to use in High Speed Southeast as well, and I am entirely in favour of it. Make the line feel busy. I don't care if I can't drive everything on it. I used to play Flight Simulator with like 1,000 other planes in the sky that I couldn't fly at the same time, but it felt busy. I liked it that way, you know. Massively in favour of this new direction, this new philosophy they're taking. They seem to have abandoned this idea that if you can see it, you should be able to drive it on a service, and I think the game will be better for them ditching that. So Nick, I was having a look at your channel not long ago, mate, and I noticed you've done some bus simulator streams and things like that. Are you planning to do more streaming, or just don't have time for it these days, or something like that? I actually completed my bus simulator campaign recently. Did all the blasted missions. Looking forward to Bus Simulator 21, that looks cool. So one feature, this big sort of concrete viaduct we're thundering over, I'll try and get the camera outside for the next one. One feature of TGV, or something they decided to do with TGV, very early on they realised that the easiest way to do, or the best way to do it, was to do what the Japanese had done. Rather than build your railway to follow the terrain and go round it, so like a traditional railway might follow a river along its course, until you find a nice narrow bit to cross it easily. TGV was just to go straight from city to city, and was to go through the terrain as much as possible. So you get these huge, big sweeping climbs and dives. It's a really fun section coming up. It's uphill, downhill. If I pull the HUD back up, we're only on a 0.3% at the moment, but it goes over 3% the inclines at some points. And that was a decision taken fairly early on when they realised they were going to be running them off of nuclear supplied electricity. They realised essentially they had a limitless supply of electricity, and they could make it as powerful as they wanted, which is why they've got these ridiculously powerful, by the standards of the time, overhead lines that could drive trains at 150 miles an hour, while everyone else was still patting themselves on the back for getting back to 125 again. So it means that the line doesn't follow traditional terrain routes. It means there's not always a lot to see by the track. A lot is just countryside, open countryside, the odd vineyard or little village off in the distance. But by the nature of its, what it was intended to do, it just does kind of go forever out in the wilderness, and there's massive distances between the stops as well. I mean, these things were not designed as all stations, commuter transports. These are long distance, high speed things. Sometimes you can go a couple of 100 kilometres without stopping. So I think they did pick quite a good section to do though, because I think a 200 kilometre stretch, yeah, an hour to do, maybe no. I mean, the length of time it would take them to do it. Problem is, just because we can drive along at 10 times faster, well, not 10 times faster, right, here comes one of these hills. Have a look at the gradient indicator over on the right there. This is actually quite a gentle one. So these big viaducts were purpose built just for TGV. None of this existed before the 1960s and 70s. So here we're going up a 3% now, and we're also going to have to drop to 300. One thing you will need to do if you want to use TVM properly is you'll need to memorise the speed tables. They're not that complicated though, and the manual was pretty decent about them. So you see we just went from up 3.5 to down 3.5, and in fact the change in the gradient was so severe that when you come out that tunnel, the first few times I came over that tunnel I thought the draw distance had gone all fucky on the game, and I didn't realise it wasn't the draw distance. There was just nothing to draw because it was literally coming thundering out this tunnel aimed at the sky, which was ace. So here we go, we're going down another 3.5%. Give it some air just to keep the speed down. And back to a plus one up. Close enough. Going to get rid of that now. So now, if you're driving without the HUD, I mean, you can kind of visibly see the changes in gradient, but that's where the little accelerometer chappy comes in handy as well on the TVM, because you will need to give it some assistance with the brakes. It will give you a lot of electric braking, but the electric braking at 300 kilometers per hour is not that great. So you'll sometimes need to feed the air into about 4 bar. Somewhere between 4.3 on the steep hills should just stop you going too fast. So we're not stopping at Aix-en-Provence, we're going straight through. Although somewhere around there is where I will disengage the selected speed controls and go back over to manual. And then we'll go through the approach to Marseille, the power change, and the nasty little booby trap waiting for you on the way in there that caught me the first few times that I ran with KVB. KVB's that little box to the left of centre with the yellow light on it. If you think of TVM as being equivalent to LZB, which it's not, but in terms of the speed ranges they operate at, and think of KVM as being, or KVB, sorry, as being more like PZB, in as much as you use it at lower speeds. What it essentially does is just make sure that you're not going more than 5 kilometres an hour above the current line speed, and if you are, brakes on, matey boy. What are you playing at? It's quite easy to recover from. It's literally press a reset button and then wait for the brakes to come back to you. It is a bit annoying the first time it happens, though. The first time it happens, you probably won't realise what the hell it is. So even when you're not stopping at Provence, expect to be slowed down as you approach it, because it is starting to get close to the grassy area. Another really severe uphill incline. It's almost like a roller coaster, the TGV at points. It's tremendous. So it does give you, you've got a fair bit of leeway before it kicks the brakes on for you. You can go 5 or 6k over, as long as you recover and get it back under, you're good. It does allow for these sort of roller coaster crests we're operating on. Anticipating that any time now passing a flag being told to slow down. Because beyond Aix-en-Provence is basically a sequence of slowdowns to get you ready for Marseille. As I said before, just watching, so on the left hand side is the orange triangle in the black square, the sort of flag looking plates sticking out in the mast. That's where TVM gets an update. So that's potentially, there we go. So the next speed down is 270. I need to be down to that by the next flag, which is a kilometre beyond. There's Aix-en-Provence there. We're down to 270, but 270 is flashing, so that's telling me that we're going to be getting slowed down even further, so we need to keep on reducing to 230, which is the next step down. Again, only a kilometre between flags. Reduce your headlights as the train passes in the opposite direction, please. Let's let the brakes out. So current limit is 230, that is flashing, therefore we have to reduce further. The next step down is 200. These are the speed tables that I was talking about before, so I've kind of overshot that by some margin. Desk light on as well as we go in here. 200 is flashing, it's telling us get down to the next limit. Usually 170, but in actual fact at the end of the line, this is the end of the LGV line essentially, so it's going to be 160 that we're going to go down to. We also at some point have to get rid of the speed control mode, put ourselves back into manual control. So we're down to 160, actually a bit in advance of where we need to be down to 160, but you're better to do this earlier rather than later. So we're 5.7 kilometres from the power changeover. You'll see I've got the desk light turned on. The reason is I'm going to do this bit with click spots rather than keys so that you can see how this works, if that's your only option. So what we need to do to get back to manual control is we need to put the power handle off, but we now have no electric brake, so we need to pop the air in just to start slowing down again. When the power handle is in the off position, just set that knob on the right there down to manual control, and you're now in manual control of the train. The speed selecting is no longer turned on. The little needle will stay wherever you've set it, but you'll see if I turn it down, the electric brakes didn't do anything. So don't worry about the number changing from one thing to another. If it's the same number, there are minor differences between it being in one column and another, but that's little stuff, and we don't sweat the little stuff. All you need to know is it was 160 at the end of the line. So I'm going to reduce even further, because just beyond that 160 there's actually a 140, and you won't get the warning about it until you've passed the 160 changeover. If you are going above 145 as you pass it, you will get punished. That KVB, see, there's 140 coming up, and it's only about 600 or 700 meters, and if you're going at 160 you ain't going to slow down in time. So release the brakes, we're going up a hill, we'll just give it a quick burst. We've got a kilometre to go to the power change. Brakes are all the way off. Power off, MCB off. Lower your pantograph, put it back into DC. Once you've done that power change a few times, it's pretty straightforward. Put the pantograph back up. Arm your circuit breaker again, or turn the circuit breaker on and then rearm it. And we're now running in DC. We're on the old style signals, so limits 140. You'll see that KVB has now come alive. That's what you want to see, is those dashes. There's lots of different modes and things that it can show, but on the stretch of line we're on, you're only wanting to see either these or you'll sometimes see a letter P, which is telling you just be careful, you might have to stop. And as long as you are below the speed limits, or within the speed limits, it won't come on. You don't have to ever acknowledge anything with KVB or TVM. There's no clear buttons or anything like that. VACMA is the one that you have to acknowledge when you hear the bell ring. Use the electric brake, and as you start doing it from that archway shaped bridge, you've got bags of time to do it. So I mean, I've got the distances up here sitting in the top corner. Those are useful as a sort of a rough reference thing, but don't focus too much on them. You'll start to pick out landmarks and things on any given route. You'll make your braking points, you know. Oh, I know that funny shaped bridge with the arch, sort of cathedral looking arch, that's my braking point for the 110. When I see the signals coming up on the way through the sort of the cutting, that's my braking point to get down to 60, that sort of thing. That just comes from being a saddle with too much time on their hands. So there we go, just down to 60 nicely, and there's a 30 coming up immediately behind it, more or less. Nathan Willoughby, hello, welcome to the stream, good to see you. Fear ye not, we are just arriving at a station, but we're not quite done yet. Just give it a bit of air to help it on its way, because that's a much shorter distance to cover. And then we'll just let the brakes back out. Oh, too slow. And you've got this little slidey thing here, is the equivalent of the yellow percentage bar here, the blue and yellow percentage bar. So again, if you're choosing to drive without the HUD speedometer, you have got equivalent information right in front of you, and all very easy to read on the TGV. That's one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if it's particular to the console versions of some locos in cabs, but sometimes gauges are very difficult to read. Not particularly an issue in the TGV. Not the important ones that I need to be able to see anyway. So that train next to us there on the left, that's the 1433 to Rennes, which is the one we're going to snaffle. We'll have a bit of a look around the station as well. What I'll do is I'll run through the setup, and then if there's loads of time I will just jump back to the menu and grab the service from the timetable. Stopped a little bit short nearly. Let's just drag it forward. That's the first time I've ever had to do that with a TGV as well. God damn it. Right, so we'll start doing the shutdown on this unit. So we'll put the brake neutral button on. Just make sure your controls are all set to neutral and what have you. You need to do the drive mode before you do the reverser. I've got them written down the wrong way. And then I'm just waiting to close the doors before I just do the last wee bits. Just takes a wee second, there we go. Ready for the new route? I certainly am, mate. Really looking forward to it. I'll be staying up late to have a wee peek at it tonight. So we can return to free roam at this point. We're just getting the ding ding because the doors have shut, and it does that. Let's turn the circuit breaker off, lower the pantograph, and we just kill the MCB. That's it. We've now shut that cab down completely, and we'll just while we're here, we'll just turn off the safety is what we turned on earlier. Right. So what we'll do now is I can't do anything with those. What's this thing? That's not a collectible or anything. Nope. What's cool with this station is when you arrive here, you can have a quick, if there's trains parked at any platforms, there's Nothing scheduled for those. You can have a look and see when they're due to depart. So if you've got your clock open there, you could have a look. You say, well, that's only 10 minutes away. If 12 minutes away, I could go and have a quick cup. I go and do something around the house for a few minutes, then come back, pick it up in real time. Never done it with the TGV, but I've done it on other routes that allow you to do that sort of end-to-end thing. So that one's much longer, 15:51 for that one, and I don't think there's anything due in on these platforms. They do get used, these platforms, but there's nothing due in on them imminently. Now, one thing I do sometimes find, that's collectible there. One thing I have found is when transferring from one train to another. I think I know why I had problems with this earlier on. Let me just investigate the cab here. Right, I couldn't get this to work before because this end had not been shut down. So, now I know why. Right, so I need to shut this end of the train down. So I need to turn off the MCB at this end. Turn the master switch off here. Right, now that I've done all that, this should power up properly at the other end. Okay, mystery solved. Because I tried this earlier and I had to resort to a little trick to get everything to fire up at the other end. So now that that end's shut down properly, we should be able to walk up to the other end. Now you might think 14:33 is a long time away, but this is a long ass train. What we'll do is we'll just we'll hop aboard. For a walk through the train. Found the bar. Only a Scotsman would blindly stumble onto the bar car by sheer chance on the first attempt. Right, okay, we're actually already at the front of the train. Or the front of that set. I think. Oh no, you can't, obviously you just can't freely move between the cars. That must be to keep the plebs out of the posh restaurant car. Yeah, because these are all second class cars. I bet you that's what it is. I bet you if we look at this other one, we'll find we can get into the restaurant car from the first class end. But the plebs can't. Vive la Republic, eh? Right, this is a first class car. Right. Oh, if I could, big posh sofas, check. Luggage rack for big enough if you're moving bloody house, check. Well, this is all very posh. Right, can't go between the cars downstairs. Oh, we posh reading lights and everything. I bet you a ticket in here is still cheaper than me going to Glasgow on a bloody standard return. Right, theory confirmed. The plebs aren't allowed in the bar car. Oh no, wait, I can get all the way down the train in this one. Okay, maybe that. All right, I was wrong. I can admit that. Right, we better get a little wiggle on because we've only got 4 minutes until we're supposed to be good to go. Thing is, Samson, I usually am quite thorough. Just for whatever reason, it never occurred to me to look at the back of the train when I was doing this earlier. Right, if I've closed that cab down properly. Let's just give that a shove, and then where's my auxiliary power button? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, that should be enough. Right, here's where we find out. Yes! Okay. Goes through all its self-test stuff. You'll get the flashing light over here. You just clear that with your circle button or your Q key, whichever you like. So, cooking with gas. So first of all, make sure that the mode is in DC, the pantograph mode. That's the C section. Steady on, Scott. It's not that kind of stream. It's the selection C on that rotary lever on the right there. That's your DC setting, and LGV on the right there for the high speed section. So once it's in the right place, we can switch this to N, which puts it to normal. That's the pantograph going up. And at this point, we should arm our MCB, or turn the circuit breaker on. You see this little red thing comes on to tell you it's on. You should see the yellow one. The blue one is basically telling you the power handle's not doing anything, and the green one I think is to confirm the pantograph has made contact with the catenary, at which point you can arm the circuit breaker. All the lights will go out except for this one, and that's the electrical setup done. Now at this point we've got a few minutes to go yet, but we can open the doors anytime we like. And then we're going to look over on this side. We're going to do the brake test. So I'm going to turn the instrument lights on, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of brightness. So the first thing to do is to find the brake hold button here. What that does is that locks the brakes on the front axle, so that they will be on the entire way through this test, because we're about to put the rest of the brakes through some tests. So press the emergency button and watch for the needle will go straight to 0, and the little orange track thing will come around the outside. Once you're happy that it's gone all the way down, press the brake neutral button, and then pull this back up again. You should see it return to 3 psi. Once you're happy with that, press brake neutral again, and your blue light here will go out. So you've checked the emergency brakes. We're now going to release and reapply the brakes, apart from the front axles, which are going to be held on during the whole thing. So release your brake till the pressure is all the way out to 5, and then reapply it to below 4, and that's the brake test done. All you need to remember to do now is turn that off, otherwise when you try to get underweight you'll find that the front axle still has the brakes applied. So the last thing to do is in the cabinet over our shoulder. There's the TVM circuit, there's the KVB and VACMA. Other cool little features in the cab if you happen to be driving at night, as well as the desk light. You've got these little pedestal things that come on, can be dimmed or brightened. There's not much actually happening down on these screens, but it's so atmospheric on a dark night to just have a little a little glow coming from under the desk there, and more clickable switches that it's like your climate control and what have you. They don't actually do anything. They're things to click on are always cool. So I'm not going to put the speed selector system on just yet, simply because I don't want to use it this side of Aix-en-Provence. So we're getting nearly time to go. Let's just get the reverser into forward. And make sure it's not couple and uncouple, but manual control that you set it to. Remember, reverser forward or that little control stays locked. So TVM won't come alive until we go on to the fast lines. It'll be KVB that's the main thing to worry about on the way out. But as long as you stay under the speed limits, we're fine. And I'm just going to get rid of that as well. I know the limit's 30, so let's get the doors closed. Let's get the brakes off. Just double check you've got a green and give it some beans. So keep it to below 30 to begin with, or at 30. KVB knows how long your train is. So when you pass an acceleration point, you have to make sure that you have given yourself enough time for the whole train to be in the new zone. So for instance, going into the 60 zone here, the sign is, or the actual sort of physical start of the zone is just up here. But it's going to take us a while for the whole train to be in there. And if you go too early, you'll get punished for it. So the 60 starts next to this signal. So we can't actually go until the back of the train is all the way around. And you can see how tight and twisty it is around here as well. The length of the train, it's really cool. Nathan has a question about the lighting. Go for it, mate. I can't promise I can answer yet, but I'll give it a go. Basically, before you start accelerating, you need to be absolutely, like, completely clear this whole section. In fact, I usually wait till I'm up next to these signals before I start accelerating, just to be on the safe side. So we should be able to go now. We'll find out in a second. Here we go. Remembering it's now we're now in a 110, but I need to give it time to pass the out of a 60 zone. So it all gets very complicated now if you're not doing this with the HUD. Long trains and no HUD can get a bit tricky if you've got a memory as shite as mine. So I can probably pick it up to 110 now. We'll find out very shortly, because the second you go above the limit, KVB starts to kick your ass. So it's 110 and we're going into a 140. What's night lights and markers? Markers are the daytime, well, it depends. Markers can be the red lights at the back, or they can just be the dimmest setting for the white lights. In Germany, I think they can just mean the dim set for the white lights. In the UK, it could be the red, the tail markers, the red markers. Night lights are just brighter lights that you turn on at night so people can see you coming from further away. And the markers are just... they're basically just lights you have on, so anybody who looks... if they're basically just to warn you that it's a locomotive that could move at any time. They're supposed to be on at all times, I think, on almost all networks. But yeah, difference between a nightlight and a marker is literally what time of day it is. The key thing to remember about most headlights on trains is they're not there so the driver can see where he's going. It's just not practical at the sort of speeds you're dealing with and the distances you would need to illuminate. The lights on a train are so that other people can see the train coming. So don't worry if you put night lights on and you're still not getting very good forward vision or things like that, because that's not what they're for. Night driving is supposed to be difficult and terrifying and scary, and you can't see what you're doing. That's why in real life it's only the most experienced drivers that do night driving. It's not something you get to do on your first week on the job, ever. So 2.5 kilometres out from the power changeover, I would recommend turning on the desk light out here. Oh, I already had it on. I would turn the desk light on before you enter the tunnel, because you're going to need to fumble about down here and you don't want to do that in the dark. So you can actually coast along because it's nice and straight and level. So we've got that P thing up there, which in this context I understand means it's just telling me we're coming up to the end of the coverage. So I'm just going to lower the pantograph. That's VACMAT just kicking in. Put the pantograph into LGV. Just as you pass that signal there, you can put it back up again. And then all you have to remember to do is flick the circuit breaker off and on, then rearm it. So we're cleared to 300, but we're not going to be getting up to 300 because we're going to get slowed down to stop at Provence. Just the markers part. Yeah, markers confusingly means different things though in different places. It's sometimes just a case of find the switch in the cab, press it, and then check your outside cameras to see what lights it changed. That's honestly how I worked out the difference on some trains. Click it and see what it does. Nothing bad ever happens when you do that, honestly. So TVM's telling us that the speed limit's coming down the next block. We might get up to around 200 or so before we start slowing down again. You want to be well prepared when you know you're stopping, just in case there's something already in the station, because the last signal block on the way in is very, very, very short. You do not want to enter it at 160 kilometers per hour. Even if you think it's clear, it's a bad idea to do that. Yeah, different trains will have the controls in different places as well. different manufacturers at different periods in time have had different ideas about where these things should go. Right, that was way too heavy on the brakes there. I don't really need to be down to 150 just yet. We're also climbing a fairly steep hill at the moment, so we've got 2 minutes to do 3 and a bit kilometres, and we're tanking along at a fair old rate. Oh, love the old HST. Yeah, I think the markers on the HST are the tail lights. And I can't remember what end you have to be at to switch them on. Like if you operate the ones on the cab you're in from the driver's seat you're in, or whether flicking it changes the ones down the back of the train from where you are. Right, I'm getting a flashy 170, which means I'm going to be getting made to stop somewhere very soon. And it's going to be, I think from the positioning, I think we're going to be okay getting into the station. But always a good idea just to carve your speed off here, just in case. You can just about make it from 90. I think it's actually up at Avignon that you sometimes run into the traffic. I'm sure I've had to follow something in here before as well, though. Maybe it was from the other end. Ah, good. You worked it out in the end. That's the important thing. Do love the HST. I've not played one of them for a while since I did the stream, the London stream. Right, lovely. You don't want to pull up too short in the TGV because, as you'll see, the platform is about the length of 2 of these sets together. Doesn't matter if the loco's hanging off the back because there's no passenger access to the locomotives. But you have to be careful that you don't leave the back end hanging off. So what I am going to do while we're stopped is we're going to switch into selected speed mode now, which there's the control for it, the click spot up on that little rotary thing there, or you can just use your the AFB/speed set control, the usual buttons. R and F will work for those as well. So, set the speed selector, release the brakes, give it the juice, all the juice. When you open the handle up like that, I feel that's where that really overused, worn out beam, a few moments later, should just like, I should have a way of springing that up. I should expect to be cleared up to line speed 300 fairly quickly. Maybe even at the next flag. Done most of it already, just doing some odd parts to get golds. Ah, nice one. It's a good feeling when you look at the list and you see all the things completed. And I think you can gold medal just about everything on Great Western now. Way back in the day, there were a few that you could not do it because of the timetabling, but I think that's all been fixed. So, are you quite new to Train Sim World, Nathan? Is this your first time playing through Great Western, or did you have the joy of playing it back in the old days when it was there? Painfully obvious it was one of their early routes. I tell you what, it's one of my favourite routes these days. Always was one that I really enjoyed, but my word, they didn't have to put a lot of effort into that. VACMA again. I don't know what VACMA stands for, it's just Le DSD as far as I can work out. So here we are on the roller coaster, we're going downhill now. I'll just bring up the speedo. You can see a 3.5% decline. You'll think your PlayStation's overheating for a moment before you realise that high-pitched whine is actually the TGV. Ah, you got GW for Christmas, so you're really lucky. You are getting to play it new in its best condition. And I kind of envy anybody getting to play it for the first time now because it's so much. I mean, it was always good, but it is really, really good now. Nice one. Oh, a little bit of popping, which I'm a bit more forgiving about with the 300 kilometre an hour train, if I'm going to be honest. Again, I know people slag it, I slag it sometimes, but I do try to remember that it's essentially 10-year-old technology at this point. So, you know, for what it's doing, I'll be a bit more forgiving for this, as opposed to the absolute swear fest that occurred we did Munich Augsburg. That's why I've never ever heard a peep from Dovetail, because I swear loads and loads and loads. There's people with way less viewers than I've got on my videos get free shit from them. Not me, because I'm just not family friendly enough, I don't think. I should stress not that I'm that particularly interested in any of that stuff, because that is absolutely not why I do any of this. If I did, I would make an effort to be more image friendly or whatever. Right, bit of air brake, because the electrics can't cope with this hill on their own. Okay, Samson, see you later on, mate. We're wrapping up here in a wee while. 15 minutes anyway, I would think. We'll catch you next time, hopefully. So you got Train Sim World 2 just after it came out. So was that your that's your first Train Sim World, or did you have 2020 as well? Old Scum Gun PS4, welcome, mate. This is this is Train Sim World 2. This is the TGV for Train Sim World 2. I'm afraid it's not going to be they're not going to be putting this out on 2020, sadly. I'm going to get rid of that again. I only had that there to highlight some of these gradients. So 50 kilometres to run. We will absolutely destroy that distance. Waiting for TVM to tell me that I can do, there we go, TVM's letting me up to 320 now. I'll do a quick run by, but I cannot actually get the camera in front of the train. Just this one then, that's fine. To be honest, there's not much missing. The only thing that you cannot get now that you couldn't before is one Amtrak route that was alright, but it's not a great loss. We're diving down into this tunnel. TGV doesn't use LZB, it uses a system called TVM, which is that big thing in the middle of the desk with the green numbers, and another system called KVB, which it uses on the slow lines around Marseille, which is the let me get my cursor up, this thing here, KVB down here. You won't see this coming on again for the rest of this journey, it's just this one here. Oh, and VACMA, which is that telephone bell thing that you just heard going off, which is essentially France's version of Zifa or the DST. Oh, going a bit quick, so we need to just give it some air just to help it slow down a little. So we're going down a hell of a steep incline again, I think. Don't want to step out of the cab for too long because I am expecting TVM to start giving me instructions anytime. If there is one negative to this route, it's the lack of traffic. That's not really a fault of the developer. That's just a characteristic of such a highly specialised thing as TGV. It covers the whole of France, but there aren't as many of them as you might think. It's not like, you know, every 5 minutes, like a bus service. Sometimes you pass 2, 3, 4 of them on your way, other times you might just see the solitary 1 or 2 here and there. Time of day, middle of the afternoon, probably not the busiest time either for it. was expecting to start. I thought the 300 area started a bit earlier than it does. Apparently not. When you're doing this route, slowing down, the emergency brakes kick in. Is that when you're heading in the other direction by any chance? Because there is a booby trap if you have the safety systems turned on. There's a speed limit change from 160 to 140, and if you're not doing less than 145 when you pass it, then that sounds like it's KVB coming on. I actually I think just before you joined the stream this evening, we did that bit, and I actually talked through the entire sequence as it came down through the speed zones. So there is actually a wee bit in there you might find useful if you went back later on. It's a bit difficult to talk you through it though without sort of actually driving it myself, if you know what I mean, at the time. But yeah, there's a booby trap there with the KVM, the KVB. Yeah, the power change. It's right after the... Yeah, it's just before you reach the power change, going in the opposite direction. I'm just trying to picture it in my mind at the moment. The speed limit changes inside the tunnel. Where it becomes 160, about 700 metres beyond that, it becomes 140. So really, that last 160, you already want to be down to about 140 before you get anywhere near there. You want to come as you come out the tunnel. You'll be going uphill as well, so don't worry about having a runaway train or anything like that. But I'm almost certain you're not getting the speed down quickly enough. Thing is, you should be on manual power by then anyway. You should have the speed selector turned off, so you need to give it full electric brake, and you'll need to give it a little bit of air brake possibly as well. But yeah, we did that bit just before you actually joined the stream tonight, mate, so it's all in there, and I blethered my way through the whole thing. So further reduction now to 270, we're getting close to Avignon. Further reduction, if it's flashing, it's telling you need to get down to the next speed limit by the end of the signal block. From 230 it's down to 200. And again, it's those blue squares of the orange triangles. As you pass those are where TVM's going to give you an update. It's just practice, man. You'll crack it. It's one of these ones you do it a couple of times, you'll manage it no problem. Hopefully you'll once you know what to look for, you'll it'll make it through there with no problems. Do it a couple of times, and honestly, you'll be blasting through there. You'll be doing the power change as you come out that tunnel before you even start playing around with the pantographs and stuff like that. I mean, I did it fairly early on the stream, I think. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about 3 different things at once here. I think I did it fairly early on stream just because I'm talking my way through it, but when I'm driving it off stream, last of the late changeovers, me. Right, I'm just bringing it in extra slowly because we've got a couple of minutes in hand. That one we've just passed where the 170 started flashing. If your 170 is already flashing as you approach that, you need to be ready to stop by this one here. So this is why it's not a good idea to approach Avignon at high speed, because if there's a train at the platform, you're fooked. So I always try and approach the end of that platform, just or the end of that tunnel, going a bit slower, because I have had it jump when I didn't think it was going. It's gone. Usually it's the flashing 170 is the clue it's going to go down, and I have had it go from a steady one down to a 0. So now I'm just extra careful. Parfait. And that is as far as the line goes. And that is the end. We've done it. We've been on a tour around all the routes of Train Sim World 2 so far. It's been interesting. It's been a disaster quite often, because I'm jumping from one train to the next, often having not driven them. In at least one occasion, hadn't even driven it in Train Sim World 2 yet, never mind driven it recently. But yeah, that's it. That's them all. Until, well, for another 4 or 5 hours, I think. And then high speed southeast will be mine at last. Whoa. So the next time I see you guys, we will be back in Blighty, playing around with the Javelin, more than likely. Can't wait. It'll probably be tomorrow. It'll certainly be within the next few days. But that's been... let me just lock the doors up. That's been the Grand Tour, guys. I had great fun doing it. And thanks to anybody who sort of sat live through it. And thanks as well to anybody who's caught up with it later on, as I know some of you do. I had fun. Hope you guys did as well. This is where I'm going to wrap this one up, though, if that wasn't already abundantly clear, because I'm bloody starving. And then I'm going to go and sit and watch the clock until midnight. That's it. I never know how to wrap these things up. You'd think after a couple of years I would have some way of doing this quickly and concisely, but no, that's not how I roll. But thanks anyway, and I'll catch you folks next time. I'll see you in the southeast.